Story 1. If someone makes a mistake in public, I pretend I did not see it to spare them the embarrassment. Feels like the world is in a rush to point out flaws. I would rather help, especially when it will probably be me on the receiving end next time. Story 2. I always say thank you when a stranger does anything for me, no matter how small or if they are obligated. Someone moves so I can pass at the grocery store? Thank you. Someone holds a door? Thank you. The cashier hands me the bill? Thank you. I do the same with please when I am asking for anything, especially from people who are working. Story 3. Demilitarize your attitude at work. The company does not know or care who you are, but you have to see your coworkers every day. Do not make them hate being scheduled with you. Former retail and movie theater manager. Story 4. Do not make promises you cannot keep. I avoid telling someone I will do something unless I 100% intend to do it. I would rather tell someone no than raise their hopes with a yes if I am not going to follow through. Story 5. Disabled people are worthy of respect and dignity regardless of their disability. It is surprising how little people outside of the community understand this. Story 6. Do nice things. Not so people owe you or you want something from them. Do it because it is the right thing to do. Story 7. Be kind and friendly with people. You never know what they may be going through. However, sometimes you have to protect yourself, even if it means saying no. Story 8. I believe all people are worthy of a living wage simply by existing. Clearly, this is not a popular opinion. Story 9. Minding my own business. I hate it when people talk about my life, so I try not to talk about others. Gossip is very stupid and nosy. Story 10. No phones when we are having a conversation. I finally put my foot down and made it a rule in my home, and even made my parents agree to it. Life has never been happier or more connected for me. Forget phones, as I type on a phone and live on Reddit while I recover from surgery. I am trying to knit and draw to break the cycle, but I am very tired. Story 11. If I find myself in the wrong lane of traffic and about to miss a turn, I take the loss for myself and drive the long route to correct it without holding up traffic. The number of times I have seen people just force themselves 2 lanes over at a light and get in other people's way makes me wish cars were mounted with paintball guns just for that occasion. Story 12. Help as many people as you can for as long as you can. My childhood and life were traumatic. Instead of turning that anger and hate towards others, I turned it inward and promised myself to help as many people as I could. I work in healthcare, did so throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, and will continue to help as many people locally as I can. Be an example locally and hopefully globally will follow. Story 13. Treating people the way I would like to be treated. Not holding someone accountable for something beyond their control. My friend, his mate, and I called into a supermarket for snacks and alcohol. As my friend was paying for his items at the self-checkout, it crashed. He did not know whether his payment had gone through or not. Staff tried to get the system running again, but it was down, and there was no way to tell if he had paid. Staff asked him to rescan his items and possibly pay again. If he ended up paying twice, he could return with his receipt and bank statement, and they would refund it. Simple and fair. However, his friend reacted angrily, screaming, berating, and insulting the staff. My friend joined in, mistakenly thinking this behavior would impress others. It did not. I was very embarrassed. I stood with the staff, confronting her calmly. Story 14. Never walk between a child and their parent or guardian if it is reasonably possible to avoid doing so. Story 15. Always return your shopping cart. Do not litter. Do not correct someone if it does not matter. Do not talk on your speakerphone in public. Be kind to service workers. Story 16. If it can happen to anyone, it can happen to me. If someone in power wants to deport, lock up, or otherwise inconvenience or oppress any perceived enemy or demographic, then people in power can find ways to define anyone they do not like as that enemy or demographic. That is why I will never support anyone who champions policies that disproportionately affect one group of people more than another. Because someday I could find myself included in that very group. I say all of this as a privileged white heterosexual cisgender male, who will never vote for anyone that wants to take rights away from anyone who is not me. Because someday it could be me, and I just wish everyone understood this, because it expands beyond voting and politics. For instance, car accidents happen because people do not take driving seriously. And as a driver, if I do not use my blinker or maintain constant awareness, then I could end up a statistic, hurt someone I do not even know, or be responsible for a family losing a loved one. It is basically do unto others, but with substance beyond the words. Story 17. Other people exist too. I am a teacher, and I find myself explaining this to students. Not only do other people exist, but they matter equally to you. Story 18. I will not say the rest of society does not, but it certainly appears that few still accept the following. 1. Facts are verifiable and real. Sound bites and alternate facts are lies or baseless opinions. The end does not justify the means. You cannot, though many do, claim to be Christian and patriotic while denying basic constitutional rights to others. See both numbers 1 and 2 above. Story 19. Do not go into business with friends. I know it is a saying, but I have seen many friends stop talking to each other because of this. Story 20. I will not jump to conclusions or take sides in matters I am not sufficiently informed about. This is especially true in politics, and the ongoing situation in the Middle East has certainly exacerbated this problem. Story 21. I will go first and risk the slaughter. You should only own the house you live in, not one that someone else lives in. Story 22. If you have your hood up in a parking lot, I am asking if I can help. I have helped more people change flat tires than I can count. The same goes for pulling people's cars out of the sand at the beach. You can drive on the beach in Texas. Story 23. I do not recline my seat on planes. I know it is my right and I am allowed to, but I have been inconvenienced and made uncomfortable so often by many people in front of me who recline the moment they can and press me into my tray for flights lasting from 3 to 13 hours. I just cannot bring myself to be that person. I do not blame people who do it because they are allowed to, but I refuse. Also, as someone who has sat in the very back row of a plane before, those seats do not recline. So anyone expecting a domino effect, where if everyone reclines it is not a problem, is wrong. Eventually, there will be a row of people forced to sit in discomfort with nowhere to go. Story 24. I tell anyone at a service counter, customer service call, or people I do business with, I see that you are busy. Take your time and get caught up or give attention to the other tasks. I am in no hurry. I almost always get better service, and they seem to have a better attitude. Story 25. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time is a quote attributed to Maya Angelou. Story 26. Dog poop bags on the side of the trail are unpleasant. You are not coming back for them. It's gross. The park is for everyone. Yes, I have a dog. Yes, I take the poop with me. Yes, I even clean up after you too. But to me, you are a bunch of no-class ding-dongs. The only exception is bags left 15 feet from the garbage can. You clearly have a massive amount of something going on. Give in to the voice. Do what the dog is telling you. She probably has it more together than you. Story 27. Always share food if you are out to eat and one person in your group cannot afford to buy anything. Never eat in front of someone with an empty plate. Story 28. In all actions, seek to harm no one. If someone must be harmed, stand by the innocent. Always consider how far your actions reach and the effects they have. Story 29. No matter who cheated, I am telling the partner. Not my monkeys, not my circus is such nonsense. No one deserves to be with a partner they do not truly know. I do not support anyone who covers it up for friends and family. Story 30. Unless a model develops full, provable sapience, I will not willingly or knowingly engage with any artificial intelligence. Story 31. Do not harm people mentally, emotionally, or physically for any reason. Most of us have enough on our plate, and the plate is about to hit the wall as it is. Story 32. Always be polite. All it costs you is your breath, but it can save you as much as your life. You never know when the person you are impolite to is on the edge of sanity and might do something to harm you or those you are with. Story 33. If a man asks for your coat, give him your shirt too. If you ask me for help, I will overdo it. Are you asking for change in front of a grocery store? I'm getting a cart and we are walking every aisle. Short $1.53 for what looks like a small meal for one or two people. Let me get that for you. Oh, I have $20 in my wallet. Let me get the next one for you too. Most of the time it's just money, but it's always a person in need. Story 34. I let people merge, zipper merge, or even just let them out of a parking lot. It takes a few seconds to let someone out in a traffic jam, and an extra car is not going to affect your travel time. Story 35. Two strong ones for me. 1. Never judge someone as others tell you to judge them. See them for who they are, for better or worse. Rid yourself of expectations, assumptions, and as much bias as possible to see what is as it is. There is too much suffering in the world as it is. Do your best to take away a little of it and add a little joy into the lives of those around you, especially if they offer nothing to you and are complete strangers. It is easy to do things for those you care about, especially those who care about social standing. It is not easy to put yourself out there for no gain at all. Story 36. Say thank you to service workers and bus drivers, and do not enter a store that closes in 15 minutes or less. Story 37. I have been in business-to-business sales for years. I am not selling you anything if I truly believe it will do more harm than good for you. However, I will try to find a better solution and present it that way. Story 38. My parents do not owe me an inheritance. I assume they will give everything to charity. I am in my 50s and have many friends who are in conflict with their siblings over what they believe they will receive and what they think they deserve after their parents pass away. Story 39. I have several principles I live by related to the internet. 1. Always give your opponent an opportunity to stop responding. For example, if someone is arguing a point online and has not responded within 24 hours, there is no point in jumping in and reviving the topic. If people are gang up on someone, there is no point in joining in unless I have something truly unique to say. No person has had 200 people tell them they are wrong and responded. I thought I was right until the 201st person stepped up, and now I see the error of my ways. If you expect someone to listen to your point of view, you have to be willing to listen to theirs. This does not mean you have to agree, but you should listen, evaluate, and consider it. Story 40. Respect personal boundaries. I may be autistic, but I have rules. Do not ask too many personal questions. Some things are best left unheard. Story 41. I do not cheat in any way. Physically, emotionally, mentally, or by flirting. When I am in a long-term relationship, I expect that to be the bare minimum. Story 42. Be nice to people at work, especially those in customer service jobs. They are human. Treat them with respect, not as your personal servant. Story 43. If you are not early, you are late. I hate waiting. I could have absolutely nothing to do and be in no rush. But if I am waiting, I get annoyed. Story 44. If you are not harming anyone who did not give informed consent, then what you do is none of my business, and I have no right to judge. Story 45. I rarely swear. I just do not think constant swearing is necessary. Plus, when I do swear, people know it is serious. To all those who want to reply to this with a swear-filled rant, do not waste your time. I have heard it all before, and I am not judging you. Story 46. Underpromise. Overdeliver. Always speak the truth. Speak the truth with kindness whenever possible. Story 47. Your presence is not really wanted in public. Do what you need to do as quickly and unobtrusively as possible. It helps in small ways. Story 48. Never lend money. Give it. Do one good deed a day without expecting reward or gratification, and without telling others about it. Story 49. If someone has only a few items, I let them go ahead of me if I have a shopping cart full of groceries. Story 50. Always tell the truth or say nothing. I have learned, by my own past failings, to value my integrity above all else. Story 51. Never go further than your own mailbox wearing the clothes you slept in, whether that is the front porch, the end of a driveway, or the lobby of an apartment building. Simply put, do not wear pajamas in public. Story 52. I always grab a cart from the cart return on my way into the grocery store, rather than from the main area at the front of the store. Story 53. I try to leave every space better than when I arrived. I pick up random trash, put carts back where they belong, and tidy up small messes. I also worked in retail for a while, so if I am waiting in a clothing store long enough, I find myself folding shirts without thinking about it. Story 54. I never ask for repayment of borrowed money and never mention money I have loaned out. I do not keep score. I give money I will not miss, and when people ask for money, it is usually because they are in deep need. Story 55. Many years ago, a little boy I provided daycare for said to my son, both 4 years old, "What did Darth Vader say to the stormtrooper? Don't be a douchebag." The child came from a very nice family, so I never figured out where he got this from, especially since it doesn't actually make sense. But it has kind of become my life motto because it's funny, nonsensical, and also totally accurate. Don't be a douchebag. Every now and then, in the right context, I look at my husband and say, as Darth Vader says, and we both chuckle. Story 56. I agreed to a rate of child support that is nearly double the mandated percentage because I strongly believe that the end of my relationship with my ex-wife does not entitle me to reduce my children's standard of living. They live with her and not me. Story 57. I am responsible for myself, my decisions, and my actions, and I accept the consequences of those. If I break something, I pay for it reluctantly, curse myself for doing something foolish, and then learn not to do that again. I believe nowadays many people expect others to clean up their messes for them. Story 58. Does it hurt people, animals, or the environment? No, then it is not wrong. If it hurts people, animals, or the environment, does it have any larger benefit? No, then it is wrong. Yes, then it is worthy of debate on whether it is wrong or right. Story 59. I turn off my radio when in a parking lot and drive through. For me, it feels like it increases my awareness of unexpected movements in front of me. For the drive-through, it makes ordering much easier and more respectful for others. Story 60. I have tried but failed to complete the mission several times in my life. It is often inconvenient and sometimes a bit unpleasant to fail this mission. I see people do it every day, so why can't I? I grew up in the 1970s with parents who instilled in me this particular civic duty. I watched television commercials and saw signs everywhere urging me to comply. I simply cannot litter. Not even sunflower seed shells out the car window. Not a tiny crumpled grocery store receipt. Not a spent match. Not a wad of stale bubble gum. I just can't do it. Story 61. Vote for a person, not a political party. I believe the world would be better if we chose the right individuals instead of focusing on party politics. Story 62. I hold the concept of identity in any form very loosely. This prevents me from labeling anyone as a good person or a bad person. More importantly, I never judge myself harshly. I have developed this perspective through the Buddhist philosophy of no self. I often tell people I know and care about, hey, no negative self-talk, when they begin speaking badly about themselves. If you pay attention, you will notice how often people do this. On the other hand, people also frequently speak negatively about each other. It is better and easier to treat others and yourself with compassion and curiosity because, in the end, we are all doing our best. At least I like to think so. Story 63. I still follow the principle that Google abandoned. Do no evil. I try to be the best I can and treat others with respect and dignity. If something does not sit right with me, I will not get involved with it. Story 64. Not talking over people. We are in a new epidemic where everyone just talks over everyone else. Radio, podcasts, work calls. Doesn't matter. There is someone talking right in the middle of someone's sentence. It has gotten out of hand. Story 65. Communicate clearly. Tell the truth and say what you mean. Can be done with kindness and tact. However, expecting everyone else to infer rather than you communicating clearly is unwise. Story 66. Treating everyone the same. Rich, poor, attractive, ugly, housed, unhoused. It does not matter. Be kind. Story 67. If I see someone struggling with something, I immediately offer to help in the no big deal, I didn't know this once kind of way. Something as simple as figuring out how to get a cart at Aldi your first time there. I literally avoided going to Aldi for years because I did not know how it worked. Anxiety can be crippling. Story 68. One full car length for every 10 miles per hour. At 40 miles per hour, for car lengths between me and the car in front of me. Story 69. I always try to ensure people have enough walking space and do not have to struggle to walk past or beside me. Story 70. Sharing my body. I do not engage in casual encounters or sleep with anyone to whom I am not personally committed and connected. Story 71. I think I should be allowed to do whatever I want, provided that I am not hurting anyone other than myself or invading the space or obstructing the rights of others. That is 1. 2. I live in a large gray area of my own making. I hate yes or no questions because I believe that everything is circumstantial. It just depends. Story 72. Live and let live. Wherever you go, once you leave that place, make sure you have left it better than when you entered. Be the sunshine in your friends, family, and community. They will shine it back to you in due time. Do not do to others what you do not want them to do to you. Be the good Samaritan. It is okay to fudge a dice roll occasionally if it supports the story. Story 73. When I go grocery shopping and there are only 2 items left, I only take one, even if I want both. Of course, if it is the last item, I will buy it. But I feel like I should always leave at least one for another person. Story 74. If I am at a supermarket and my favorite item is on a special offer, I only take a couple of extras and leave plenty behind. I believe others will have this as their favorite item too and should have the chance to enjoy the savings. Story 75. I did not realize until I became an adult how common it is for people to blatantly lie. I was taught it is wrong, I believe it is wrong, and I think it can only get you into trouble. It is better to just own up. I did not realize it was a thing people actually did because I had assumed we all learned in elementary school that lying only gets you into more trouble. White lies, omitting here and there, sure, but that is the extent. I only remember blatantly lying once in my entire adult life because I had dug myself into a bit of a hole in terms of scheduling and had to get out of a previous commitment. I felt terrible about it and was extremely nervous I would be caught. I do not understand how people can do it so casually. Story 76. When I was a bartender years ago, the rule was no politics or religion. Years later, I joined the Freemasons, and while you have to have a religion to join, the rule in the lodge is you do not talk about politics or religion. I follow that rule in my everyday life. It does not mean I do not have strong feelings. I just do not air them in public, and it definitely cuts down on arguments and resentment. It seems to me that far too many people only want to talk about these things and get annoyed when I do not engage with them. It is almost like people do not know how to talk about anything else and actually enjoy the fights that come from these conversations. Story 77. Everyone deserves a second chance, even monsters. That does not mean I am stupid. I will stand by ready to pull the trigger if they misuse that second chance, but I will still let them have it. Story 78. There is a time and a place for everything, which means sometimes you need to control your desires and act appropriately. Also, do not dress as if you are going to a rave when attending a wedding, and do not dress as if you are going to a wedding when attending a rave. Story 79. I love animals, dogs and cats, pigs and cows, chickens and ducks. They should be treated with respect and kindness. Most people get upset if you kick a dog, but are okay with pigs and cows living miserable lives under poor conditions. I am okay with eating meat if the animals lived under decent conditions. That is certainly not the case for factory-farmed meat, which is what most people eat but will not admit. Most farm animals have never seen a green field in their lives and are given growth hormones and antibiotics. It is a disgrace that this is considered normal. Story 80. I try to never say anything about someone that I would not want to say in front of them. I slip sometimes, and if someone makes me truly angry, I might vent a little. But in general, I try not to gossip or badmouth people. Story 81. If I see someone struggling to do something, I offer to help if I can. I once saw someone struggling to parallel park, and I offered to do it for them. They were shocked but extremely thankful after it was done. Story 82. Be the person who makes someone go home and smile, not the person who makes someone go home and cry. I tell this to my children all the time. Story 83. Depends on the society. I feel that everyone should have a baseline life of housing, healthcare, and education with no strings attached. If you are a human being, you deserve the dignity of not being homeless, starving, or without medical care. It is the moral imperative for everyone to work toward that kind of society. I live in the United States, by the way. I am definitely in the minority with that opinion here. It is always, who will pay for it? Or nobody would work. Without people even wondering why we subsidize the richest people on the planet while having more peopleless homes than homeless people. Story 84. Reflect on your behavior. We really are just a bunch of irritable monkeys. It is easy to be swept up in hate brigades and bandwagons for no reason. Think about what you are saying and why. Is that the kind of person you want to be? Is that how you would like to be treated? I have definitely had a change of heart on things I may have said or written and tried to change them. Story 85. I do not lean my seat back on an airplane unless the seat behind me is empty. The small increase in comfort I gain from leaning back is not worth the significant decrease in comfort for the person behind me. Story 86. I have a couple. Somebody has to go first. I got this from a book, but it is really good advice and has many applications. For example, if you are in an argument and at the stage where you are both just mad, someone has to make the effort to come to the middle. I try to be that person. To me, this essentially means putting your ego, grievance, or anger to the side. In reality, neither of you is happy. Sometimes taking the step of saying, I'm sorry. Looking at this, I could have done better. Here is where I have failed and how I will improve. Will open dialogue and lead to a better discussion. It is about doing the right thing because it is right, and doing so provides an avenue for others to follow. The razors are also good, but my favorite is Hanlon's razor. Never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by incompetence. I get really frustrated when people do inconsiderate or oblivious things. I try to remember that they might just not be good at this or aware or affected by any of a host of things, not just that they are out to get me. Finally, the most important step one can take is always the next step. This is from the same book as before. We all fail, sometimes terribly. Your failures do not define you. It is about owning your fault, acknowledging it, accepting the consequences, and then trying to be better next time. Story 87. I use what I have and do not seek out new items unless I absolutely have to. I often give away things wherever they will be accepted. Somehow, this has not resulted in having fewer belongings. Story 88. If your husband forces you to have sex with him, it is not rape. I have been taken off the street and repeatedly raped in Golden Gate Park and know what rape is. This does not mean that being forced into sex by your husband is acceptable, but it does not carry the same trauma as stranger rape. If it happens, leave him. Story 89. I do not have a car and walk everywhere. If I see something blocking the sidewalk, like one of those electric scooters, I always move them off to the side as best I can. I am able to easily walk around, but I know others may not be able to do so as easily. Story 90. I say what I mean and mean what I say. I do not mince words. I do not tolerate fools lightly. I may be blunt, but I am honest. Story 91. All art deserves to be seen and heard, even if it is offensive. Expect the worst outcome so you are not disappointed. Use the bank's money, not your own or your family's or friends. As long as the repayments are feasible, if not, reconsider your budget. Do not punch down. Support people's identity even if you do not understand it. We do not always need positivity. There is probably more. Story 92. I am nice to everyone because you never know another person's reality, and showing kindness is the least I can do. I am not pushy about it, just mindful. Story 93. I feel like the golden rule is being observed less and less these days. There are far too many people who are okay with human suffering as long as it does not affect them. I wish I knew how to encourage people to support each other on a large scale. Something besides going on social media and hoping I am compelling enough to change opinions. Story 94. I treat everyone I meet with respect and kindness. I call people that I do not know or am not familiar with sir or ma'am, even if they are much younger than me. If I have a problem with a product or service from a company and need to speak to someone, I always let the person know, usually a representative just trying to get through their day, that I know it is not their fault and they do not make the rules. I just want to fix a problem. I do not yell at them or speak to them harshly because I know that they almost always have no control over anything. I find that this often gets me more help than I expected, and the conversation goes well for both sides. Story 95. I try to keep people's political and religious beliefs out and prioritize their trustworthiness when I need to decide whether I like someone or want to work with that person. Such personal beliefs do not affect how good someone is at work or in personal life, but people often want to work and spend time with those who have a similar mentality because they do not like what others think or say. Story 96. To do what ought to be done, but would not have been done unless I did it, I thought to be my duty. Story 97. Treat people with respect until they give you a good reason not to. Not everyone will reciprocate, but many times I have been in difficult situations, and random acquaintances, for whom I have done nothing other than be polite, have done immensely kind things for me. Simply being kind opens many doors. Story 98. Only uncivilized people do not return their shopping carts to the designated area. I will walk through rain and hail to return the cart to the cart return area. I disapprove of all who leave them in parking spaces and on curbs. Story 99. I am not special and I wait my turn in line rather than cut in front. Basically, I look at life and ask, what is the least selfish thing I can do in this situation? I try my best to do that. Story 100. I never litter, no matter how inconvenienced I am. Most people in my city still throw their trash out the car window. Story 101. Not pretending to care when I actually do not care. For example, I only ask how you have been if I truly care, not because it is polite to do so. Story 102. If you want to donate money, always try to give it to individuals directly rather than large organizations or non-governmental organizations. Story 103. If you can walk through an entire store with your shopping cart, you can also walk the steps to return it to where it is supposed to go. Story 104. You should honor your parents out of gratitude for their efforts, time, love, and money they invested in you for you to be alive and thriving. I do not believe in the sentence, I did not ask to be born. Therefore, I do not owe you any gratitude. Story 105. Being honest, not in a blunt way but with honesty to the point that it is real, not only when it benefits yourself. I want people to be held accountable for their actions, myself included. Story 106. I try very hard not to gossip, and I avoid listening to gossip. This goes back to my Catholic school upbringing. Upon reflection, I do not see how this has made any difference in my life at all, but I hope it has had a positive impact on the lives of others, if only by its absence. Story 107. Expect that if you have a conflict with somebody over anything, your likelihood of being harmed is extremely high. I just cannot get over how many people ignore this. I know many people who learned this lesson at the next red light when violence became involved. Story 108. I never gossip about someone behind their back. I may share some friendly news, but that is where it ends. Story 109. Return the shopping cart even if I have to park far away. It is surprising that many people just leave it on the grass by the curb. Story 110. It is not mine by any means, and it took me a long time to realize it myself, but this is a piece of wisdom from one of my best friends. If you get out of bed in the morning and place your feet on the floor, and you don't like where they land, the only person who can change that is you. Whether that is your job, your relationship, or your attitude, if there is something you don't like about your life, you cannot rely on other people to fix it. Others have their own problems, and while some will help you, sometimes at their own expense, you cannot become dependent on that if you want to have control of your own destiny. It's easier said than done, but you do not have to do everything at once. Small progressive changes are better than trying to take massive leaps. Sometimes it is just about moving in a direction, even if it means going backwards and taking another path, such as returning to college or university to see if a new option excites you. Some of us handle stress better than others, but everyone has a breaking point. When you reach that point, you have to rebuild yourself before you can do what you should have done before and start moving again. Also, have empathy for others, especially in retail. No one does a minimum wage job to be yelled at. Story 111. Do not speak ill of someone with whom you have a disagreement. Either find a mature solution with that person directly or move on from the entire matter. Story 112. I do not believe in using your phone in a social setting like dinner. I am always baffled by people who play with their phones in company. Just go home if you are not interested in the people you are with. Story 113. Trying not to own more than I need or waste unnecessarily. Of course, I fail to live up to this, but I try. Story 114. Never use someone only for my own personal benefit. I try to make it a win-win situation for both parties. Feels horrible to be the victim. Story 115. If someone is kind to you, you owe them nothing. Kindness should be free. It is not transactional. Society forgot that. Story 116. Not all of society does this. If a mistake is made, I try to educate the other person about it instead of telling them off. The same applies to children. They are ignorant and will make mistakes. Those are great learning opportunities. Story 117. Always acknowledge the people you walk past. Always accept gifts from children. Never call someone a name in a dispute. Story 118. Use my inside voice in public. Try to walk carefully and avoid bumping into people. Do not yell or argue with servers. Always tip 18%. Help when someone appears to be struggling with something, such as holding a door open for someone with a baby carriage. I do not watch videos at maximum volume in public. Moral code. Do not do anything that will unduly affect those around me. Story 119. I do not lend out anything unless I am okay with never getting that item back. Not even to my closest family or dearest friend. Story 120. Not taking out your anger on people who do not deserve it. Because I have worked with the public most of my life, I know how it feels. Story 121. I have two hard rules I live by. I do not associate with evil and I never do tag teams with blood relatives. Story 122. I try to live with integrity. If I make a mistake, I try to fix it or at least own up to it. If I borrow money, I am going to pay it back. Most people seem to think that you only have to be honest if you are observed messing up. Story 123. Treat people how they treat others. Not in a tit-for-tat way, but in an I have been working here for a month now, and this person is constantly making jokes at others' expense. Let me throw one their way and see their narcissistic little minds lose it way. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.